Good evening and welcome to the last of the heats in the 1983 competition to find our Film Buff of the Year. As usual, our contestants have been selected from amongst the winners and runners-up of a series of elimination heats held across the country, and tonight's players from left to right are as follows. Don Minifie, a probation officer from Whitstable, Kent. Cy Young, a film technician from Bristol. Kevin Weston, a deputy headmaster from London. And finally, John Guzzo, a bus driver from Leeds. There are 4 rounds of questions to each show, and in the first 3 rounds, every question is worth 2 marks. If the answer is incorrect, those marks will be available for bonus points to any of the other players. Our first round of general questions begins with a look at a film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, and Don Minifie, the question on it will be for you. Don Minifie, that clip came from a film directed by Hitchcock and featured Nova Pilbeam and Edward Rigby. What is the title of the picture, and how did Hitchcock contrive to make his customary personal appearance?
The film is called Young and Innocent.
That's right, for 1 mark.
And he was a reporter outside a police station.
Quite right, a press photographer waiting outside the police station. The drummer there was George Curzon. 2 marks for you. And we move to Cy Young. 3 more questions now concerning Hitchcock's appearances in his own films. I'll name the film, you name either of the stars, and the way the director contrived to appear. Cy Young, Torn Curtain.
Well, Paul Newman and Julie Andrews.
Yep.
And I think he was being wheeled by in a bath chair.
No, not right. Open for a bonus. Anybody? No. Hitchcock in a hotel lobby with a baby sitting on his knee. You get 1 mark for that, Cy Young. Kevin Weston, your Hitchcock film is Family Plot. Who was the star, and how did Hitchcock appear in that?
Karen Black was a star. I don't know how he appeared in it.
Cy Young.
Silhouetted through a glass doorway.
Yes, as a shadow seen through a frosted glass window. The other star was Bruce Dern. You share marks on that one. And finally, John Guzzo, another Hitchcock film for you. It is I Confess.
Montgomery Clift.
Yep.
Crossing the street.
I can't accept Crossing a Street, I'm afraid. Cy Young.
Member of the crowd outside the courthouse.
No, it's no more bonuses. You were right in one way. He was crossing a street, but he was walking across the top of a very, very long flight of steps. It's such a famous still it's become that I can't just accept Crossing the Street. Don Minifie, back to you. Another famous director made a personal appearance in his film The List of Adrian Messenger. Who was it, and in what role did he appear?
This was John Huston.
It was.
As a Master of Hounds.
That's right, Master of Foxhounds in the final hunting sequence. Cy Young, listen to the soundtrack from another film with which John Huston was associated.
I put on this white dress for you. To help me tell you how humbly I ask you to forgive me. Press, I'm kneeling to you. To ask you to forgive me and love me as I love you.
Julie, please.
Can you give me the title of the film and John Huston's connection with it?
I'll say Jezebel.
Jezebel is right.
I would suspect he had something to do with the screenplay.
Good enough. You get the other mark.
Yes.
Huston was one of the screenplay authors along with Clements Ripley and Abram Finkel. Kevin Weston, the year 1947, saw Henry Fonda in an RKO film called The Long Night. We heard Fonda, of course, in that Jezebel clip. But who was the young actress making an early appearance which launched her to stardom, and of which 1939 continental classic was the film a remake?
It was Barbara Bel Geddes.
Right.
I don't know the name of the continental film.
You get 1 mark. Open for a bonus, Don Minifie.
It was Le Jour se lève with Jean Gabin.
That's right, Le Jour se lève. And John Guzzo, will you now look at this clip taken from that very picture?
Regardez-moi cela maintenant, François! François!
Oh, je suis fatigué, laissez-moi... François! François! Et j'ai plus confiance! C'est fini! Fini, vous entendez?
François, t'obstines pas! Ça sert à rien!
Il y a des gens qui ont tué déjà, ils en sont pas morts.
Descends, on verra après.
Eh, dites donc les gars, il y a une place à prendre. Une bonne petite place, un bon petit boulot, avec des heures supplémentaires.
Jean Guzet, there was Jean Gabin. The director of Le Jour se lève was Marcel Cagney, and the picture was his third collaboration with the same writer. The fourth was Les Visiteurs du Soir. What was their next film, and who was the writer? Open for a bonus. Don Minifie.
Well, it was Les Enfants du Paradis.
That is correct.
Jacques Prévost.
Jacques Prévert is close enough, I think, to give you both marks, and that question brings us to the end of round one and gives us the following scores. Don Minifie, you have 7. Cy Young has 4. Kevin Weston has 2. John Guzet has 1. As usual, in our second round, each contestant will be given a compilation of 4 films and asked to answer a question on each of them. 2 points to be won for each questions, making a total of 8 points for each compilation. Unanswered questions will be open to other players for the same number of bonus points. Cy Young, will you start us off, please? And we've given your 4 films the title, The Drinks Are in Me.
Somebody wants to come in. Nothing will come in then.
I want a statue for the worst performance of the year. In fact, I want 3 statues for the 3 worst performances of the year, because I've earned them. And every single one of you that saw those last masterpieces of mine knows that I've earned them. Libby, start the music. What I'm here to find out is, do I get them or do I get them? Now answer yes or no.
Kid, what a time for you to fall off the wagon. Look at your eyes.
What's wrong with my eyes?
Well, they're red. Bloodshot.
You ought to see them from my side.
4 notable drunks, Cy Young. Can you give me the title of the first film and the author of the novel which inspired it?
Kind of Loving, Stan Barstow.
That's right. We saw Alan Bates. The director was John Schlesinger. In our second film, we saw a delirious Charles Laughton in the 1954 remake of Hobson's Choice. Hobson had 3 daughters. The eldest, Maggie, was played by Brenda de Banzi. Which 2 actresses played her sisters?
I can't remember.
Bonus marks, Kevin Weston.
Prunella Scales and Daphne Anderson.
Prunella Scales as Vicky, Daphne Anderson as Alice. John Mills also starred. 2 bonus points for you. Back to you again, Cy Young. Our third clip, black and white from a colour original, came from A Star Is Born, featured Janet Gaynor and Frederick March in the parts later played by Judy Garland and James Mason. But in the audience, we also saw Lionel Stander and Adolphe Monjou. Who played their parts in the same remake?
Jack Carson and Charles Pickford.
That's right. Our last film was, of course, Cat Ballou with Lee Marvin. Who played the villain who he met in the final duel, and for whom did the film win an Oscar?
All the same person, Lee Marvin.
That's quite right. Lee Marvin played the villain. Lee Marvin won the Oscar. That ends your round. And our next 4 extracts go to you, Kevin Weston. And because of their content, we have called them I'm Going Back to Mother.
Oh,
Barbara, where have you been all these months? I missed you. I never thought you'd come tonight.
obviously.
Oh, her, she's nothing to me. She's just a wench I brought down to pass the time till you came back.
Here. You look very well together. I warned you if ever you deceived me, you'd be sorry. You'll find this wench, cheap though she looks, will cost you dear.
Barbara!
Farewell till our next merry meeting.
Now, I'm going to make a suggestion to you, Sidney, and it's going to come as a big shock to you. But I'm going to make it anyhow, and I want you to give it your grave and your earnest and your thoughtful consideration. Will you do that for me, Sidney? Sidney, will you do that for me? Will you promise that you'll do it for me, Sidney?
You were my wife, and you've made me hate and despise myself, and I don't want you anymore. Do you understand? I don't want anything from you. I don't even want your gratitude. I just want to be left in peace. Now, get out!
Oh, here she goes. The owe me heart stint. Coughing her last hour stint. Enemy to whittle me down to your level. I bet you pray nights. Please, God, make Charlie small like me.
Four lovers' tiffs. In the first extract, can you name the actor who we heard but didn't see, and also tell me who plays the equivalent role in the new version recently released?
That was James Mason, and in the new version it's Alan Bates.
That's right, the Wicked Lady. We saw, of course, Margaret Lockwood as well. In our second clip, we saw actress Diane Cannon, but can you name the two star actors who were missing?
Michael Caine and Christopher Reeve.
That's right, from Ira Levin's Death Trap from his own play. Our third film showed us a quarrel between Anne Todd and Claude Rains. From which film and from a novel by which author?
Is it called The Passionate Friends?
It was.
Graham Greene.
Graham Greene's not a bad guess. It's not right, though. Cy Young.
H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells gets you a bonus point. Screenplay by Eric Ambler, directed by David Lean. Our last film, Staircase, Kevin Weston, was, like Death Trap, adapted from a stage play. The original author wrote the screenplay, but who was he and who directed the picture?
Charles Dyer.
Correct.
Stanley Donen.
You're right. Quarrelsome Lovers were Rex Harrison and Richard Burton. And your turn now, John Guzzo, and some selections under the heading Hot and Cold in All Rooms.
Light?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have a room booked here. My name's Bird.
Oh, yes, Mr. Bird. Single room, wasn't it? Will you sign here, please? Just your name and address will do.
$17 and $19.
17 and 19. Yes, monsieur.
17, 19.
Voilà, monsieur.
Could you get me a small brandy, please?
Certainement, monsieur. Would you like to have it here or in your bedroom?
Thank you, here.
Yes, monsieur. Une fine maison pour monsieur.
Bien, monsieur. Now, Lloyd, I want my old suite back.
It's hardly possible, Your Grace. Mr. Adams is still here.
Has he paid his account?
That doesn't arise, Your Grace.
If it arises for an Englishman and a gentleman, why not for a trumped-up American?
We could accommodate you in the Marlborough suite.
No, I want my own suite back.
4 hotel lobbies. What was the title of the first picture? And can you describe precisely why it was so apt to the story?
Last holiday.
That's right.
And he'd been told by his doctor that he'd only a few months left to live.
And he was taking a last holiday.
Yeah.
In fact, he did die, but not by the means that he thought he was going to. He was found to be perfectly fit, but he died in a car crash. Good enough. We saw Alec Guinness, Beatrice Campbell and Helen Cherry. You get 2 marks. Our second film featured Suzanne Lloyd in a hotel reception scene from the second of 3 films made by 2 popular British comedians during the 1960s. Can you name the comedy duo and give me the title of the picture?
Eric Morecambe and Ernie Wise.
That's right.
The Magnificent Two.
No, it's not that one. Kevin Weston.
That Riviera Touch.
That Riviera Touch earns you a bonus mark on that one. Back to you, John Guzzo. Can you supply the title of the third film in which the brother of the heroine mysteriously disappears, and give me the reason for his disappearance?
No.
Open for a bonus to Kevin Weston.
It was David Tomlinson, and...
We saw David Tomlinson.
Yes, the hotel proprietors hid him because he'd got the plague, and they didn't want the news to spread around Paris.
That's right. He catches the plague during the Paris exhibition, has to be removed secretly for fear of spreading panic. And the film's title?
Sound at the Fair.
Oh, yes, that's quite right. OK, fine. In our last clip, John Guzzo, we saw a much-loved British actor complaining about an American millionaire in a film adapted from a story of Mark Twain. Who is the actor and what was the film?
A. Matthews.
Yes.
The £1 Million Note.
That's right. The screenplay by Michael Foot's wife, Jill Craigie, in 1954. And finally, Don Minifie, we come to you. Your turn. Some edited extracts we have called simply Scramble.
This crate. They don't believe it. They say you haven't got it in you. Well, I'm going to give you a chance to prove either that they're liars or I'm a sucker. And whichever way it comes out, it's okay with me. You can talk to yourself for a while. I'm going for a little stroll.
Hello, man. Dropped in for tea?
Some air sequences. For our first clip, Don, all I require is the film and the star.
Well, it's not George Formby. Is it Hell's Angels?
Yes, it is.
With Ben Lyon.
Right, far cry from George Formby, but you're quite right, directed by Howard Hughes in 1930. Next, we saw an extract from a film of 1942 called Thunderbirds. Can you name the leading man who bailed out and the director who was, incidentally, a famous pilot in his own right during World War I, winning the Croix de Guerre?
The director, William Wellman.
That's right.
The star... I don't know. It's not John Wayne. I don't know.
It isn't. Bonus marks anybody? John Guzzo?
John Sutton.
No, it was Preston Foster. The leading lady was Jean Tierney. We come back to you again, Don, for the third clip of fairly recent evocation of World War I in the air. Can you give me the title and the director?
It was Jack Gould's Aces High.
It was Jack Gould's Aces High. We saw Malcolm McDowell, and for your last film, which brings us to World War II, I would like the title and the name of the director.
It's not the film I thought it was. Don't know.
John Guzzo.
Angels 1-5.
Yes.
George O'Farrell.
George Moore O'Farrell is all right. That gets you 2 bonus points. And at the end of that round, our scores are as follows. Don Minifie has 12. Cy Young has 11. Kevin Weston has 14. And John Guzzo has 8. Very close scores, so now we come to our individual round in which we have given each contestant a specific area of the cinema and asked him to prepare to answer a set of questions. As before, all unanswered questions will be open to the others for a bonus mark. Kevin, it is your turn to go first. And your category, 5 questions on the British musical. In 1964, the Beatles made a phenomenally successful film called A Hard Day's Night. Can you name both director and screenwriter?
The director was Richard Lester. Screenwriter Wolf Mankiewicz.
Open for a bonus. Don Minifie.
Sorry, Alan Owen.
Alan Owen is right. Bonus mark of 1 for you. Kevin Weston, look at this clip from one of a series of successful British musicals.
There's a girl in every pore, and a voice in our heart seems to say, follow her, follow her, follow her, she may be the one who mustn't get away. So let's meet the girl they sent to us today.
Can you give me the title of the film and the name of the actress who Cliff Richard finally found?
Is it Summer Holiday? Laurie Peters.
No, I'm afraid it isn't. Don Minifie.
It's Wonderful Life with Susan Hampshire.
Wonderful Life and Susan Hampshire, directed by Sidney J. Fury, 1964. They all sometimes do look a bit the same, Kevin. I can see your point. If Rudolf Forster and Caroline Nair were partners in 1931, and Kurt Jürgens and June Ritchie were partners in 1963, who were the gay British couple in 1953?
Laurence Olivier and Dorothy Tooting.
Quite right, because they were Macheath and Polly Peachum in John Gay's The Beggar's Opera. The others were reworkings of the Threepenny Opera, which came from the same source. You're absolutely right. Within a period of 3 years, Herbert Wilcox made 3 films starring Anna Needle and Michael Wilding. 2 were The Courtenays of Curzon Street and Spring in Park Lane. Which was the third?
Maytime in Mayfair.
Quite right, of course it was. Listen now to this soundtrack from a 1934 film.
He dances overhead on the ceiling near my bed, in my sight through the night.
Well, we are going to let you into the secret that it was Jessie Matthews singing Dancing on the Ceiling. Can you give me the title of the film?
Evergreen.
Yes, that's right, directed by Victor Saville in 1934, and that ends your round. So we turn to John Guzzo, and John, your questions about gangster films of the 1930s. 2 of the earliest gangster films were thinly disguised portrayals of the racketeer Al Capone. In Little Caesar, the part was played by Edward G. Robinson, in Scarface by Paul Mooney. Who was the director in each case?
William Wellman, Public Enemy. Howard Hawks, Scarface.
Public Enemy I didn't mention. Howard Hawks is right on Scarface. I said the film was... I'll give you one chance. I said the film was Little Caesar. You can go back on it.
Mervyn LeRoy.
All right, that's 2 marks. That's fair enough, because you might have misheard me.
Yeah.
Listen to this soundtrack from a gangster film of the late 30s.
Why don't I die, oh, please? I don't want to die. Oh, please. Oh, don't make me burn. Oh, please, let go of me. Please, don't kill me. Oh, don't kill me, please.
A film in which the leading character was a mixture of both villain and hero. What is the title, and what is unusual about the way he was meeting his end?
Angels with Dirty Faces.
That's right, with James Cagney.
Well, it was faking his cowardice for the sake of the priest asked him to...
Fake it for the kids.
Yeah, for
yes,
the kids.
You're quite right. He didn't want them to go on to a life of crime, so he asked him to pretend he was a coward, although we're never absolutely certain in the film whether he was pretending or not. Take a look at this still, which shows James Cagney again, meeting death at the end of a gangster film released the following year, 1939. The girl with him spoke a memorable last line. Who is the actress and what was the line?
Gladys George.
Yes.
He used to be a big shot.
Quite right. The Roaring Twenties was the film. The producer was Samuel Goldwyn. The director was William Wyler. The screenplay was by Lillian Hellman, and the stars were Joel McCrea, Sylvia Sidney, and Humphrey Bogart. Which celebrated group of characters did the film create?
The Dead End Kids.
That's right. The film was Dead End, made in 1937. Will you please examine this clip taken from a gangster film of 1936?
Hello, Nick. What's eating you? I'm starting to take over the numbers game.
That was the Warner Brothers production Bullets or Ballots. I'd like you to name the actor in the scene with Humphrey Bogart.
Barton McLean.
It was Barton McLean. The film also starred Joan Blondell and Edward G. Robinson. That brings you to the end of a most successful round, Jonathan. Next you, Don Minifie, with some questions about Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman's first Hollywood film, Intermezzo, was a remake of a film with the same title in which she'd starred in Sweden 3 years earlier. Can you name both directors?
The director in Sweden was Gustav Molander.
That's right.
And the director in America was Gregory Ratoff.
That's right, replacing William Wyler. The film also called Escape to Happiness in the UK. Towards the end of the 1940s, Bergman created a sensation by leaving her husband for the Italian director Roberto Rossellini. What was the title of the first of his films in which she starred?
Stromboli.
That's right, 1949. Listen now to part of this soundtrack.
Still a story without an ending. What about now?
No. I don't know. I know that I'll never have the strength to leave you again. I can't fight it anymore. I ran away from you once. I can't do it again.
Casablanca, which is Bergman's, or must be Bergman's, best-loved film, was based on a play written by Murray Burnett and Joan Allison. What was the play called?
Everybody Comes to Rick's.
That's correct, 2 marks. Look at this sequence from another Bergman film, also based on a play.
Here. This is for you.
But, madam, it's 1,000.
And this is for the Railway Widows Fund.
Good heavens, 5,000. Madam, no such fund exists.
It does now.
The lady, sir, is Madame Zakanassian.
Madam Zakanassian? I had no idea.
Please don't disrupt your international schedule any longer.
That film was based on a play by Friedrich Dürrenmatt called The Visit. What was the purpose of The Visit made by Bergman, and who was her co-star?
The co-star was Anthony Quinn.
That's right.
Who had played an old seducer from the village, and Bergman's purpose was to come back and offer, I believe it was $2 million to any of the villagers that would kill him.
That's right. She bribed the town to get rid of him, and your answer is completely correct. And now your last question. In 1932, it was Miriam Hopkins and Rose Hobart. In 1941, it was Ingrid Bergman and Lana Turner. What was the film, and who was Bergman's leading man?
Spencer Tracy in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That's right, and that completes your round, which again is a full house. So now we come for our last category, to you, Cy Young, who I'm going to ask to answer 5 questions on Frank Sinatra. Look now at the film, which was the first to give Sinatra a significant acting role.
Hi, Mike. You're a fine guy. What's wrong? You find out that Millie hasn't got any dough, so you marry another bankroll.
Don't be silly.
You're all crossed up, Mike. I never intended to marry Millie. Yeah, well, that's just why I'm here. But you don't understand. That kid's never been in love with anybody. Except you. Me. Yeah. Are you kidding? No.
Certainly not. Everybody knows that, including Mrs. Drake.
Of course, you chump. We've been looking for you for months.
Can you give me the title of the film and name the other actor featured in the scene we saw?
Meet Danny Wilson.
No, it wasn't. Open for a bonus. John Guzzo.
Higher and Higher.
That's right.
Bert Lahr.
No, it wasn't. I could go back to Cy Young, actually, because he didn't get a chance to answer the second part.
Well, I don't know.
You don't know. No, I can't take another bonus, but tell us for interest, Kevin.
Jack Haley.
That's right, it was Jack Haley, the girl was Barbara Hale, but unfortunately not a mark because it's passed twice. Back to you, Cy Young. In which part and in which film is the one generally accepted as establishing Sinatra's reputation as a dramatic actor?
Well, From Here to Eternity.
That's right, playing the part of?
Joe DiMaggio. Not Joe DiMaggio, DiMaggio.
Oh, that'll do, Angelo Maggio.
Yeah.
2 marks for that. In the 1956 Western Johnny Concho, what is the significance of a gun holster which Sinatra is given to fight a duel?
It's his brother's.
No. John Guzzo.
Spring in the holster.
It's a trick holster with a spring, which makes it easier to draw, quite right. Back again to you, Cy Young. Listen to this Sinatra song.
When somebody loves you, it's no good unless he loves you. All the way, happy to be near you when you need someone to cheer you. All the way.
In which film did Sinatra sing that song, and on which man's life was it based?
This is The Joker is Wild, which was based on Joey Lewis.
That's right, the song All the Way by Jimmy Van Heusen and Sammy Cahn. And for your last question, the 1954 film Suddenly derived its title from the name of a small American town. For what purpose did Sinatra pay it a visit?
He was to assassinate the President of the United States.
That's right, because the train stopped there. That brings us to the end of your round and to the end of all those rounds in general. We have the following score: 25 for Don Minifie, 17 for Cy Young, 21 for Kevin Weston, and 21 for John Guzzo. And so to our final round with some very, very close scores. A selection of quickie questions with the first player to press his buzzer earning the right to answer. Here we go then, gentlemen. Who was the star of the 1921 film The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse? Cy Young.
Ramon Navarro.
No, 1 mark taken away. It was Rudolph Valentino. Who played the lead in the 1961 remake of the film? Kevin Weston.
Glenn Ford.
Glenn Ford is right. Who wrote the novel on which was based The Four Just Men? Don Minifie.
Edgar Wallace.
That's right. The 400 Blows is the English title of the French title Les 400 Coups. Who directed it? Don Minifie.
François Truffaut.
Yes. What is Francois Truffaut's connection with Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Kevin Weston.
He acted in it.
He appeared in it as an actor. Which famous author made a cameo appearance in Truffaut's Day for Night? Kevin Weston.
Clifford Odets.
No, it was Graham Greene. You lose 1 mark. Who played Lady Anne in Olivia's Richard III? Don Minifie.
Claire Bloom.
That is correct, Claire Bloom, and that brings us to the end of the quickie questions for this week, giving us the following scores. Don Minifie, 28, Cy Young, 16, Kevin Weston, 22, John Guzzo, 21, which means that the 2 players who will be going forward to our last semi-final are this week's runner-up, Kevin Weston, by 1 point, and this week's winner, Don Minifie. Well, gentlemen, thank you for a most exciting contest. It's really tragic to think that anybody had to lose it. So commiserations to those of you that did. Congratulations to our winners. Next week will be the first of our 2 semi-finals, when we will bring back winners and runners-up from the earlier heats, and when the competition will start to draw to its climax. From Film Buff of the Year, good night.